I got this like jellyfish light. It stopped working. It's okay. It's kind of flickering. I don't have better lighting than this, and I'm not using my big light. So I wanted to film this video when it like was put together more so, or felt more so put together, but that is usually never when I'm inspired. I'm just gonna get into it. I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about anxiety because a lot of people are just like, oh, everybody has that. Like anxiety is a natural instinct, like for survival. So of course everybody has it to a certain degree, but I think it's on a spectrum, and like people fall on the spectrum differently. I have more so leaned towards like a panic disorder than anxiety, but I've always called it like anxiety. Even not that long ago, before COVID happened, mental health wasn't really talked about. So when I was a kid and growing up until I was like a teenager, I had no idea really what a panic disorder was, or really any understanding of what panic attacks were, or why they happened, or how to stop them. And I had a therapist that was extremely unhelpful. My doctors were not very helpful either. I mean, that's just my experience. Everybody's experience is different. Nobody ever was like understanding to it either. I feel like people genuinely didn't understand what that meant, or they had never really experienced that before. Plenty of people experience, you know, panic attacks and anxiety, but I feel like there's also a lot of people who genuinely do not understand because they've never experienced it, or because they maybe experienced it like one time and they kind of forgot about it or something. I don't know. And panic attacks are one of those things. If you've never experienced it, you have literally no idea. You literally cannot comprehend it, because how can you comprehend a feeling that you've never experienced before? It's impossible. I feel like a lot of people also say they're having a panic attack, and they, like, because they're kind of like joking about it, they're like, ah, but it's kind of like a overused word that is also like improperly used. I feel I dealt with that a lot during my childhood, didn't understand, then I kind of stopped for some reason. I was kind of able to deal with it somehow, I don't know, and then all of a sudden it started happening again. I personally didn't want to go on medication for my panic attacks either, which was my choice. Experiences I've had in medication, I just don't really like how it makes me feel. I wanted to figure out how to deal with them without having to go on medication. You know, like, if you have panic attacks, you cannot function. So I was not able to function, so I needed to figure out, you know, how can I function as like a person. My nervous system was extremely dysregulated. I was having immense anxiety before this year. Panic attacks almost every single day for at least over a year, and I have been able to break out of that. I literally couldn't remember the last time that I have had a panic attack. I've been able to break out of that because of these habits that I've changed. But it took me 20 years to figure out what worked for me and how to manage my anxiety and how to manage panic attacks and all that. Quite literally took me 20 years to figure that out. What I found that really helps me heal my nervous system, because my nervous system was all out of whack. So which I didn't even know until recently, ish that like your nervous system was linked to like panic attacks. It took me 20 years to realize essentially this would help. What I started to do was I started to do yoga, I started to meditate, I started to drink more water, and I started to make sure I was eating healthily and regularly. And I know that these things everybody tells you will make you feel better, but they genuinely do. And I had people tell me that these things would help, and I didn't listen. I was like, oh, drinking water, how literally what is that gonna do for me? But it literally does help. We literally are made up of like, what, 90, okay, it's not 90, it's like 60% water or something like that. Yeah, like 55-60% water. I seriously didn't realize how helpful that it could be to just regularly drink water every single day, and how much of an impact that it has on your body. And I'm sure on regulating your body and being able to function. And same thing goes with like eating regularly and eating healthily. I never prioritized eating healthily. I never really kept track of eating regularly, but doing that has literally been life-changing, and it's literally so easy. And ever since then, realizing this, I've been trying to drink at least 6 glasses of water every single day, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of paining me out. I know they say you gotta drink like 8 glasses of water a day or whatever, but I'm not gonna lie, I just can't usually do that. I feel like it feels like such a ridiculous amount of water to be drinking. I don't know. To me it does. I literally would. I used to not drink water ever. I would drink maybe a glass of water a week. Okay, I didn't keep track, but I literally didn't drink water. Like, it wasn't something I thought about. But eating is a huge one as well. Not like getting enough nutrients, not getting enough, having enough energy, enough fuel. I think that is extremely relevant and correlated or connected to like directly to panic attacks, because your blood sugar gets low, and at least for me, and then you just kind of start to freak out and kind of start to panic, and so making sure that you're having enough nutrients and enough vitamins and all of that, I think that it's even just that by itself, the water and the eating, those two things just by themselves are extremely relevant. Drinking water and eating regularly and healthily is so important. And on the days when I don't eat very healthy or I don't drink enough water, I feel like absolute dog. And I realize how, I'm like, why do I feel this way? And I know now that it's because I'm not drinking enough water, or I didn't eat healthy enough. But before I knew these things, I had no idea. I'd be like, I feel like not good. Why do I feel this way? Of course, people had told me that, you know, you gotta drink 8 glasses of water a day, you gotta eat your vegetables. But I guess it was never, I don't know, I never took it seriously, or I didn't understand. And I feel like that's like a lot of people out there who don't understand that, how impactful it is, and they're not aware of that, because I certainly was not aware of that. If I had just had more of an understanding and willingness to try these things, you know, but it is what it is. I know now. Obviously just drinking water or sometimes those things are not going to be helpful, and panic attacks and anxiety attacks just happen for other reasons. That's not always the complete cause as to why they happen too. Like, those things were definitely not the only reason why I was experiencing that. So although it wasn't the entire reason, obviously, it was absolutely a contributing factor, and knowing that I could have been doing these things, or if I had just, I don't know, had somebody be like, do these things, like somebody forcing me to do these things, I think that it would have been extremely beneficial, and I would have not been experiencing them so frequently. Doing yoga has also been extremely helpful. I started doing yoga regularly at the beginning of this year, and around the same time I started like doing the other things as well. And I seriously have healed my nervous system. And breathwork. Breathwork is also extremely helpful and has been extremely helpful to me. Which was something I had also been told growing up. Just breathe, just take deep breaths. I'm sure that everybody has heard this. Just take deep breaths. And I never took it seriously. I never understood how that could possibly help me. I was like, oh, I've tried doing that before. That doesn't work for me. But it was because I didn't have an understanding. Oh, you don't just take like a couple deep breaths and you're all good, because it doesn't work like that. It's like over a period of time of putting in the time to do yoga and to do breath work and to meditate. And I'm not a doctor and I'm not a whatever, but this is just what has helped me and what I've found. This is just what I found to be helpful for myself and my own personal experience. And on my journey of this. Like I was saying, it's about over a period of time of putting in the effort to do these things to heal your nervous system. It's not just like, oh, you're one day having a panic attack and you're like, take some deep breaths. That's not gonna just probably stop your panic attack, because that never did for me. It is, it's not as simple as just taking a couple of deep breaths or drinking a couple sips of water, which is what I had took from what people said to me about drinking water and taking deep breaths. But it isn't that simple. But it is simple, but it isn't that simple. It's about regularly drinking water every single day, making sure you're drinking multiple glasses of water every single day, making sure you're taking the time to sit down and just do yoga and breathe and meditate, or even just one of those things, making sure that you're walking regularly, going on walks regularly, or working out regularly. These things all help immensely. It's not like just going on a walk one day or going on a walk or drinking one glass of water and being like, oh, I'm healed. Like, no, like, it doesn't work like that. But it doesn't work like that. But I feel like there's kind of a misunderstanding there that I at least had. But I feel like I can't be the only person who has had like that kind of misunderstanding. So what yoga does is it can activate your parasympathetic nervous system, and it can reduce your fight or flight, your symptoms of fight or flight that you're feeling, which when you're having a panic attack, your body is in fight or flight. So you have a parasympathetic nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system, and your sympathetic nervous system essentially, I believe, is responsible for fight or flight, because your body senses a threat and it's preparing you to go into survival mode, to like get away, to save your life to save yourself and to like get this, I don't know, deal with the threat. But when you're experiencing this for no reason, it can be extremely confusing because, or for seemingly no reason, you're just kind of sitting there and all of a sudden you start having a panic attack. And it can be very confusing when there's no direct or clear cause as to why this is happening, and it seemingly happens out of nowhere. I don't really understand why this gets triggered for no reason, or why like you go into fight or flight for no reason, or why some people do, myself included. But like I was saying, a contributing factor is definitely forming good and healthy habits. But your parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for relaxation, basically. Yoga stimulates the vagus nerve, which is like connected to or a component of your parasympathetic nervous system. Knowing this, I feel like it motivated me more to stay committed to doing things, to like yoga, for example, because I know that this is helping me, and there's like evidence backed up behind it. You know, essentially it's helpful to know how your body works. At least I found that it was helpful. And learning about the vagus nerve being directly connected to activating like relaxation, I found that it was helpful. Certain breathing exercises and stuff literally activate this nerve that will literally induce relaxation in your body and calm you down. And knowing that, as opposed to somebody just being like, when, you know, take a few deep, as opposed to somebody just saying to you, take a few deep breaths, but having literally no understanding as to how that could possibly be helpful. Or I just feel like there's so much, that's such a vague thing to say, just take a few deep breaths. You know, that never helped me when people would tell me that, but I know now that they're right. But there's a lack of communication there, I feel, at least from my personal experience. And it's just helpful to know deeper in, like, to look deeper into it and to know more about it than to just hear, take a couple deep breaths or drink a glass of water. People have panic attacks for a multitude of reasons, and sometimes something just happens throughout your day or whatever that triggers you or sends you into a fight or flight response that results in you having a panic attack, and that just like happens, and that's just part of life sometimes. But I'm also like making this video referring to people who struggle with having a panic attack, with having frequent panic attacks / a panic disorder, and they don't really understand why, because there's no like clear reasoning as to why it is happening. Like with myself, of course, like life circumstances and stuff contributed, but also my like habits and stuff like that were a huge factor. And I'm also referring to people who relate to that. But these are just some things that I've personally learned that have personally helped me. I'm not a doctor, of course, but I feel like it's helpful to hear what other people have to say. And I don't know, I know that it would have been helpful to me to hear this. Of course, you have to be willing to put in the effort, and it takes some motivation as well, but it does make a difference. And I'm not saying this isn't gonna completely just get rid of your issues and panic attacks and stuff, of course I still experience anxiety, but I'll say that it is like so much better. Like 20, I don't even have a number. It is, I would say it's like gotta be like 50 plus times better. Like I said, I can't even remember the last time I had a panic attack. I hope that this video is able to help, you know, at least somebody